Welcome back to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. I'm your host, Jill. I'm a time management specialist. I'm an author, award-winning speaker, and advocate for all things growth in motherhood, which is why we're all here today. Just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by my book, Happy, Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, which you can grab on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble and Indigo and all those places. And a quick reminder that if you are listening to us, you can also head over to YouTube and catch this conversation that I'm having with Laura live and in action. So my guest today is Laura Sinclair. Laura is a strategic business mentor. She's also a podcast host, and she's the founder of This Mother Means Business, which is dedicated to empowering entrepreneurial moms to build profitable, fulfilling businesses without sacrificing their personal lives, which I am all about. Laura's got this passion for supporting women in overcoming burnout and overwhelm and business plateaus, and she can provide these really clear strategies in marketing and systems and leadership and customer experience which help us get through the muck. Laura's noted for her relatable storytelling driven approach, and she helps women gain clarity and confidence and joy while achieving the sustainable success we're all looking for. So I'm really excited to have her on the show today, fellow Canadian, which is always a really fun thing. And we're going to be diving into community, motherhood, entrepreneurship, goal setting, all the things today. So, Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Is there anything that feels important to add or expand on from that beautiful bio that we introduced you with?
No, I love this bio. So this is actually a new bio for me, Jill, I have to tell you. And
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, I like it so much better than my old one. So thank you for reading it. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. No, that's me in a nutshell right there.
Yeah, I love it. We do such similar things. And when we were chatting prior to this call, we actually were introduced to everyone who needs the backstory here. We were introduced by a mutual and common acquaintance of both of ours. And it was just a perfect sort of match. And we got on the horn and we were like, oh, wow, yeah, we're really aligned. This is super cool. And it's so amazing to me that women in business can be this like supportive community aspect rather than that stereotypical competition, catfighty type of thing that, you know, it, the stereotype still exists, but I don't see it in this space, which is so
Yeah.
wonderful.
No, I mean, and there's my computer making sounds for you. So I'm sorry if you'll get the joy of editing that out later. Or you can leave it in, whatever feels good. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like I think that for me, I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years and I'm about to I turned 38 this month. And I think some of it has to do with age. And I don't want to like generalize a little bit, but I find myself hanging in circles of women who are a little bit older, and certainly moms are just kind of like, yeah, let's just support each other, right? We already have so much on our plates that the idea of bringing in competition and being anything but supportive to anyone else is just exhausting. And for me, it's just really aligning myself with the right people. And so when you and I had the chance to connect, it's like, yes, the vibes here are immaculate. But I would say like 90% of the people that I meet are really in that space. And then there's that 10% that's maybe not so much, but you just stay where it's comfortable, stay where the support is, because truly I have learned in 10 years of entrepreneurship that often the success in business is who, not what. And so being able to build your community and build your network is something for me that's been super powerful.
Yeah, who not what speaks to my heart so much. I think that as I've been building, I'm newer to entrepreneurship. I am like full time in it this year, but it's been like a 4 year build up, and it's the community, it's the networking, it's the people, it's the who
Yeah.
that really can rocket launch you, which is why I love the work that you're doing to support women in this space. Can you talk a little bit about the community and the retreat and like all the things that you've put together to help moms like us and business owners like us?
Yeah, so coming into supporting moms was something that I didn't intend to do and kind of happened by accident, if I'm being totally honest. And so for me, it started from, I came to the online space wanting to teach small business owners how to use social media better. I have a corporate marketing background, a digital marketing background, PR background. And I was like, okay, I'm meeting all these incredible entrepreneurs that are great at the things that they do, and they are terrible at filling the funnels in their business. They're terrible at getting seen. And so that's where I started. I just started being like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I couldn't ignore the fact that about 95% of my clients were moms because I'm a mom. I have two young kids. My kids are 7 and 4. At the time, I had a 1 year old baby and a 3 year old, when I started this business. So it'll be 4 years this year in the online space. So I couldn't ignore the fact that all of my clients were moms. And then we were having more conversations around, the challenges that exist in the social media space for moms. And then it became deeper into business, right? This realization that a lot of the advice that's out there is just really not applicable when you also have babies to run. And I was seeing this in the conversations I was having just from what I was absorbing on social media and being like, okay, that's not. Now, Brock Johnson's someone that's coming to mind. He's like a big social media influencer, and he's probably one of the best at acknowledging he doesn't have kids, and this is why he can do this. But a lot of the advice is like volume, volume, volume. And when you're a mom building a business, it's like, well, how am I supposed to do that? And so I was having those conversations. And then I invested myself thousands of dollars to go be in rooms and to get the advice from the people that I'm supposed to get the advice from. And I'm sitting in these rooms listening to these people, and I'm looking at the person beside me, and I'm going, "Do they have kids? Like this can't be possible. Like this is not possible for my life." And there's some of it that is, but a lot of it needs to be modified for me and the season that I'm going through. And so I started having these conversations behind the scenes, and this Mother Means Business actually started as my podcast. And so I launched my podcast in February of last year. Is that right? Yeah, February 2023. I'm like, time flies. Um, or was it 2022? No, I don't remember. No, I think last year, 2023. What is time? What is time? But I launched it just as a podcast, and it was just the intention, like, let's have more conversations around motherhood and entrepreneurship because I'm having these conversations and I'm not hearing them. I'm not hearing other people talk about them. And so I had hosted a mastermind for the last 2 years, like a mom entrepreneur mastermind that I ran. This will be actually the fifth round of this mastermind will be starting this year, like in February of 2025. And I started this mastermind and I'm doing this podcast and I'm realizing like, man, there's more here that we need to do. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to host a retreat. I'm going to plan a retreat. And so 2023 hosted the first retreat. It wasn't, I think I called it like the CEO mom retreat. I was just like, hey, let's get some moms together. We'll host a retreat. It'll be a business masterminding thing and we'll bring in some people. And so that was 2023. So at this point now I have a retreat, a podcast, this mastermind, but I'm still not really seeing it. I'm just like doing these things. And in March of 2024, I broke my leg and I was at home a lot. I couldn't drive. I broke my right leg, so couldn't drive, couldn't walk, couldn't leave the house, and was sort of catapulted back into like almost postpartum, right? Where like I'm stuck at home, not with my baby, but I'm stuck at home with healing this broken leg. And it reminded me of just how lonely entrepreneurship can be. And so I had a lot of time to think, a lot of time to sit, and was realizing that what was happening was that the women in my mastermind were becoming best friends. And the women that I was working with one on one, I'd work with people, and I still do work with people privately. And then I would connect them with someone else that's like locally to them. I was like, oh, you guys should meet. And then they're becoming best friends. And I'm like, what is happening here? Like all these women that I'm working with that I'm not bringing together are really clicking. Like there is a vibe here. And so in May, as I lay in my bed with a broken leg, I launched this Mother Means Business community. And I was like, okay, we're just gonna do it. Like we're gonna do this thing. Like this is happening behind the scenes, so I need to make this happen a little more formally. And so this Mother Means Business is now a community, it's a podcast, it is a retreat. I'm hosting my first event in April, on April 4th, 2025 in Newmarket. And so I'm really starting to build this Mother Means Business as a brand, as a really the place for entrepreneurial moms who love their business. I think a lot of the mom entrepreneur stuff is very fluffy. It's very like, oh, it's just this cute, it's very pink and very like very part-time, which is fine. And that's not me, downplaying any of that. That's fine if that's your season. But the women that I work with are really passionate about their business. They're wildly ambitious. They want to, achieve all the goals, do all the things, and they have children and it has to look different. And so I've really brought together just this incredible community of women who are really dreaming big and doing the work that they need to do to get there through this lens and while navigating this intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, you're totally speaking my language. I see that so clearly in my life and in my community as well, where we're the go-getters. We're like,
Yeah.
yes, it's not a, oh, this is hard, I'm doing business and motherhood. It's like, no, I'm really wanting to excel at both. Like I want to make
Yeah.
both a priority, make it happen. What are the tools, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the that's the vibe.
Yeah,
And
like I'm not willing to shelve my ambition for motherhood.
yeah.
And I am a very present mom at the same time. I think like that's a big piece of it. And one of the things that drives me crazy is when women, ambitious women or women in general, really like use motherhood as an excuse for why they can't do something. And for me, it's like, no, motherhood is the reason you should do something.
Totally.
And it's really about, for me, like, yeah, I want to be both. I was a whole human, whole ambitious human before I had children. And I don't believe that my ambition has to end with motherhood.
No, no, absolutely. There is space to do everything that you want to do, right? Like
Yeah.
as a time management strategist, I am like so confident and so this is my jam talking to people about how you can make it all happen, right? Like, yeah, I love it. And I'm curious to know as we're like starting this new year, everyone's in the business mind, like Q1, we got a plan, we got to do the whole year, like getting back into the groove after the holidays. We're back in it. What's your strategy for like setting goals? How does that work for you? What do you recommend when you're working with people one-on-one, specifically around goal setting? So I'm imagining listeners right now, like, okay, we're gearing back up. I want to kill it in 2025. I've got this one thing or these two things that are really present on my heart, and I want to go after them. Where do we start?
Yeah. It's a lot, right? There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we can do. And so for me, with my clients, one of the things that we try to get clear on for a year is like, what's our North Star goal for the year? And like, what is the big thing that we want to achieve? And it's interesting, like having this conversation with you now, when I think about 2024, I actually didn't achieve most of my goals, at least my financial ones.
Yeah.
I had a big, beautiful year and did a lot of really cool things, but breaking your leg isn't great for business. I don't recommend it,
Mm,
especially the way that my business was built then, right? And breaking my leg has been an invitation for me to completely change everything about my business, and I'm doing that, and that feels amazing. But when I think about at the beginning of 2024, I had these goals set, and I'm like, nope, they did not happen, and that's okay, right? And so when I think about as I head into 2025 with my clients and myself, it's like, okay, what's the North Star goal for the year? And that might be a revenue goal, but it might not be. It might be a way that you just want to feel in your business. It might be an outcome. It might be, okay, I want to impact X number of women in whatever capacity that looks like. It could be anything. And so when we really figure out what that North Star goal is, then it's okay, now what are the pieces that we need to back into that, right? To make that happen. So it could be revenue, it could be lead generation, it could be visibility, it could be team, it could be a personal goal, it could be a systems goal, right? And so then it starts to look at, okay, what are the actual pieces now that I need in order to make that North Star goal a reality? Knowing again that we may need to leave a little room for magic or a little room for hopefully nobody breaks their leg that's listening to this. If you break your leg, I'm just going to knock on wood. I'm not because it's going to wreck the podcast sound, but I'm not wishing that upon anyone. But life's going to happen. Life's going to life. And how can we always just revisit back to that, what's that North Star is? And then once we have that, then it's a quarterly, right? It's looking at, okay, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, what are the things that I'm going to be doing? And really just building back those actionables from there. And so that's how we do it in my world, is
yeah.
really just starting to think about that. And then when it comes to making decisions throughout the year, it's like, well, does that help us get closer to that North Star goal? And
Mm.
then that becomes the question, because there's always going to be things and opportunities and ideas and shiny objects and distractions. And so, does that get us closer to our goal? Because if it does, then great. And if it doesn't, then maybe it's something we need to revisit.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like having sort of the overarching theme or goal for the year, being strategic and being able to chunk it down into quarters. I think 90 days is a really
Yeah.
solid amount of space to be able to think about.
Yep.
And it's sort of like its own season, right? Because things will change as the year goes. Like you said, there's going to be distractions, there's going to be new ideas. And I heard on a podcast the other day, I'm trying to recall which one it was. But like not every idea that comes into our head deserves our attention and our focus, right? Like we need to be more discerning, myself included, Certainly, because I get that shiny object syndrome thing happening where I'm like, yes, and now I must stop what I'm doing and entertain this idea. And it's like, can we make space in 2025 to let our ideas like percolate a little bit and prove themselves
Yes.
before we dive into it? And stay a bit more focused on that North Star goal. I love that idea.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're into human design, Jill, but
Yeah, I am.
I'm a manifesting generator, which
I'm a
by human
manifestor.
design, okay. So
Yeah.
human design manifesting generators, we're like, we have a million ideas and there's a million things that we could do. And it could be this and it could be that. And I'll be honest, like I ran my business that way, my online business. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for a decade, but my online business I've been running for 4 years. And the first 2 years, I was very much the manifesting. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to launch 500 things in 1 year. I'm going to run this program and that program. And this year, 25, heading into 25, this is the first year I know exactly what I'm doing for the entire year. And there is room for there's room for magic. There's room for, hey, maybe I'm going to build this in, certainly in the context of the community. There's a lot of room for me to play in the community. But as far as like where my focus is, what I'm doing, it's the community. It's my mastermind twice a year. It's my event. It's my retreat. Like that's my year. And private mentorship, of course. But that's my business. And so I'm finally, 4 years in this place where it's like, I'm focused on building this Mother Means business and supporting my people. I'm not like, okay, I'm going to launch this social media program and we're going to do this content challenge and then we're going to do, like I'm not there. But as a manifesting generator, that's hard because I do get a lot of ideas and some of them have to go on the horizon list, maybe later. I'll have to revisit them and give myself the permission because yeah, especially as a mom, like I do not have the capacity to do everything. And truly, it's funny we're having this conversation because I just, it's December as we record this. And so I'm looking at the end of 2024 and like all the things that I did. And there's a trend right now that's like, oh, feeling bad about myself because I didn't achieve everything this year. And then starting to look at the things that I did do. And I was pulling it together. And literally the thought that came into my head was like, Laura, you're a beast. Like, this is a beastly list of things that, like, this is monstrous. You're a monster for having done all of this. Like, I dropped 80 episodes of my podcast. I was a guest on 62 podcasts. I hosted a retreat. I took my daughter to New York, 2 rounds of my mastermind. Like, you start to look at it, it's like, this is a monstrous list and a bigger list than a lot of people could handle. And so, yeah, I think a lot of it is like, how do we give ourselves some grace, but then also, focus on the things that are actually important and not getting like too shiny object syndrome.
I like that idea of reflecting back over the year and even, as we move into 2025, maybe reflecting back every quarter and just saying like,
Yeah.
well, what did I accomplish, right? Taking
Yeah.
the moments to stop and actually celebrate ourselves for the things that we did get done because you're right in that we can often feel bogged down with what we didn't accomplish.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, there's going to be things on our list, in our goals and in our hearts that don't get done in 2025, right? There are going to be things that don't get done. And there are going to be things that throw us curveballs in life, probably in business, definitely in family life, and that's just we roll with the punches. I think is leaving that room to play is how you sort of phrase it, and I like that a lot. Having a bit of flow and spaciousness in the plan allows you to make sure that you're not getting into this self-deprecating mindset when things don't get achieved. Because let's be honest, there's never been a time in my life where things have gone exactly as I've planned them to. I don't know about you, but it hasn't happened for
No,
me.
and I think it's actually essential when you're a mom, right? Like there's this essential piece to building a business when you're a mom that requires you to be flexible. I mean, let's be honest, none of us know what we're doing in motherhood. I have a 7 and a 4-year-old for the first time, then I'm gonna have an 8-year-old for the first time. And like my kids they're both so different. And so every single day I'm learning, what my kids need because that changes. And the same in my business, right? I'm doing things in my business I've never done for the first time. And so, yes, I can set these goals, but life's gonna life to your point. And I think as a mom, there's the number of times I've gone into like a launch. Okay, I'm launching this thing, and someone's got like pink eye, a gastro infection, like things happen, right? Life happens, or my kid needs something, or it's a costume day and I've forgotten, and I have to go run to the store and get a costume, or like whatever it is that's going on, or their favorite snack they don't isn't their favorite snack anymore, and now they're starving. Like all these things that start to come up, and you have to have leave room for flexibility, I think, especially when you're a mom, because how are you, if you try to function in a space that's too rigid, you are setting yourself up to fail, I believe.
Yeah. And all of those examples hit so real right now for me. Like it's the last week of school as we record, and it's like the
Yeah.
spirit days. They're all, and then the two kids, everything is different, all the different grades. It's a lot for us to manage. And I'm curious, what does it look like for you in your real life to balance motherhood and entrepreneurship? Like on a day, like in
Yeah.
whatever time period makes sense to talk about, like if it's a day to
Yeah.
day, if it's a month, like what does it look like for you to be in both and
Yeah.
feel like good in both?
I don't believe that anybody feels like they're crushing it in both areas at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know a single mom entrepreneur that would be like, "Yup, crushed it as a mom this week and I crushed it in my business." And so to your point around balance, I think a lot of it is like it's truly scales, right? It's like, okay, I'm gonna have this is a big business week for me and like I'm not gonna be the present mom that maybe I want or I don't have the time. And so I'm gonna find ways to make up for that later. And so I don't know that there is like this day is the day that I'm going to crush both. Like I have not met a single mom entrepreneur that would say that. Um, I've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of incredible women on my podcast, and delegation is a really big part of that conversation that comes up over and over and over again. And where can you find help? Um, so there's a lot of pieces in it. But to answer your question around like how do I navigate it, I think for me, when I think about balance, I think about just like literally being where my feet are. And if I can focus on just one thing at a time, then I'm winning. And I'm in a season where my kids are school age. So my son's in JK and my daughter's in grade 2. And so I've got, 9 to 3 most days to fit in what I need to fit in. And that's the time I get to focus on my business or whatever household task I'm looking at. And then when my kids are home, that's the time where my feet are where my kids are, and I try to not let my brain wander too much back into business. It's not perfect, but for me, like when we talk about balance, that's what balance is for me. It's not like, oh, I worked for 4 hours a day and then I play with my kids. It's like, no, I just get to focus on the thing that's in front of me. Um, but to answer your question just around like how do I navigate the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship, I think giving myself grace is a big part of it. Making sure my business is supportive around the structure of my business is supportive for how I want to show up as a mom. And that's going to be different for everybody, right? Like what I feel is supportive and what balances for me is going to be different than it is for you, Jill, and anybody that's listening. And so that's where, as a person that mentors moms and entrepreneurs, it's so interesting because there's truly not one way. And a lot of it is like, let's find your way because my way might not be your way. And so where I find a lot of, business advice comes from in this place is like this, a lot of people teach one way, right? This is the one way that it has to be. But that's not going to work for most people. And so how do you set that up? And then boundaries. Boundaries is the probably one of the biggest. And we talk about boundaries like, oh yeah, okay, I need better boundaries. But boundaries will fix a lot of the symptoms that show up around the friction between those two roles.
Hmm. Yeah. Boundaries are huge. Personalizing the way that you do it is huge.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I teach as well in terms of when we're managing time, we need to personalize it because the one
Yep.
size cookie cutter, like it's bullshit. It doesn't work. It doesn't exist. It's not functional. Maybe for the 1% of like old rich white dudes, like it's not for us. So
No.
if someone is really jiving with what you're saying and wants to start to personalize, wants to start to get into finding their groove and getting supported in a way that feels really good for them and their business and their season, like what's the first step to working with you? What's the first step to learning more?
Yeah. I'm gonna sneeze.
I know there's so much. And guys, just so you know, everything is in the show notes. All of Laura's stuff is in the show notes. You can follow her on
It's
Instagram.
like,
You
oh,
can
it's
join
coming.
the wait
Yeah.
list for the events and the masterminds and all the things. But
Yes.
what's
Yeah. So
your like entry point?
definitely the community. So starting out in this Mother Means Business community, which is at thismothermeansbusiness.com, that is the best place to start. It is a monthly membership. It's an annual commitment, but you can pay it monthly, you can pay it annually. In that community, we do networking calls. We have a monthly roundtable strategy call. It's a 90-minute call where we break up into groups and just have a lot of like individual support in your business. We laugh, we often cry. There are often tears on that call, but it's really just a place for you to get the support that you need. The community also has a bunch of training. So it's really designed to be a resource to educate you and give you the knowledge that you need to implement the necessary tools and skills to grow your business to where you want it to be. We bring in guests every month and we do co-working. It's fun. And this year, actually in 2025, I'm going to be doing a quarterly planning session. So it's fun that we're talking about this because that's going to be a big piece of how we move forward in the community and just making sure that everybody is on track. So the community is absolutely the best place to start. There is an investment for the community. The podcast is another great place to be. The podcast is free, so you can dive into all of that information there. So thismothermeansbusiness.com, or you can head to my website if you want to learn more about my mastermind or working with me privately. It's laura-sinclair.com.
Amazing. Thank you for your time today. It's been such a joy to be able to connect with you and just gab about all things motherhood and business and community and goal setting. And it's giving me this confidence and eagerness to start the year, and to just get into it and know and trust that however it unfolds in my particular way is the way that it's supposed to unfold for me. Like what feels good for me, I can trust that, right? And even if it looks different from somebody else. So that's like the most important piece of permission I think I got from this episode.
Thank you so
If
much for that.
you are listening and you got a really great aha, takeaway, download, whatever, let Laura and I know. Tag us on Instagram, send us a note. We'd love to hear from you. Podcasts are fantastic, but as hosts, we both know it's like we're talking at you and you're listening, and we can't interact with you through this medium. So please come into our world outside of podcast land and get in touch and just let us know what landed, what resonated. If you have questions for us, at least speaking for myself, that's my favorite thing. So,
It is absolutely my favorite thing. And if you've made it this far in the podcast, we're friends. We're friends
great.
now. So please say hi. I'm at It's Laura Sinclair on Instagram. Say hi to me. We're
Yes,
friends.
we are friends. And I'm so glad to have met you and connected with you. Until next week, everybody, keep on growing like a mother.